Hi everyone, welcome to another edition of Plugged In on TV Cogeco. I'm your host Melanie DeVoe, and I'm very excited about today's interview because we have a huge event coming to Windsor this August. It's the Ontario Summer Games. And joining me to tell us all about it, Michael Chandler, who is the General Manager of the Ontario Summer Games. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Can't wait to get all the details. But first, let me introduce our other guest, who is Christopher Lawrence Menard, and he is the show producer of the opening ceremonies. Hi, Christopher.
Hi, Mel.
All right, let's start with you, Michael. How about a little history lesson? I understand these games have been around for quite some time.
Absolutely. The games have been around since 1970. We have about 3,000 athletes that are going to be coming to our city.
And that's just the athletes, not...
Those are participants. Those are athletes, managers, and coaches directly involved in the sport. In addition to that, we've got all our spectators, the families, and the friends that will follow.
How many different sporting events are there going to be?
There are 20 different sports, which I think is a real accomplishment in that we will be hosting all of those sports at venues in the City of Windsor.
Wow, that's a lot of different venues.
Absolutely. Very few cities, I'm sure, in the province that can boast that they're able to do that.
What are some of our local venues that will be in play?
Micmac Park is probably the biggest. Micmac Park has 4 different sports and over 800 athletes.
We should mention, I don't think I mentioned the dates off the top, August 7th to the 10th.
Yeah.
I heard that every event is free for the public.
Absolutely. That was the intent when City Council and our mayor led the charge to get the games here. And one of the things that the mayor stated is he really wanted these to be available to the community to enjoy, and there will be no charge for any of the events. So you should make sure that everyone should make sure that they get a hold of a map and see where the events are, because they are held all over the city at 16 different venues. And if you've got interest in rugby or archery or fencing, find out where it's going to be. Hit our website and make sure that you get out there and see them.
And there's golf. There's all kinds of great events.
Roseland Golf Course will be hosting 100 golfers. Yeah.
Wow, that's terrific. Now, what's the web address? Let's give it right off the bat. So
it's OntarioSummerGames.ca, and that is the address that you can find all of the events. You can find all the information on the games. You can volunteer. You can send us an email and let us know you want to sponsor.
What kind of sponsorship opportunities are there?
Food and beverage, merchandising, venues that are hosting have all come on board.
How many volunteers do you need to run this event?
We're looking at probably about 750 volunteers in total. If we get up around 1,000, then great. We will make sure that we put everybody to work. And I think the largest venue for volunteers is, of course, going to be the opening ceremonies. That's where we need some serious manpower. And
that's at Alumni Stadium at the university.
Absolutely.
Now, just to clarify, because we were discussing this before we went to air, these are teenagers, right? These are 14 to 18-year-olds participating. So some people might be confused with another summer game that happens.
Predominantly, it's 14 to 18. There are some outliers. We've got some younger athletes as well, and in the skeet shooting we've got some older athletes, but generally 14 to 18 captures most of the athletes, not to be confused with the 55 plus games, which will be held a couple weeks later, and that is a Windsor Amherstburg co-host of those games.
We've gotten a lot of great events like this in the city over the last few years. What are we doing right?
Certain venues have helped with that. When we talk about the Aquatic Center, I mean, it's been a busy place for the month of May. It was certainly packed with events, and I think that what you have is a mayor who is very interested in leading the charge to bring some of these signature events to our city. It's great to have the local events, the OFSA championships, those type, but when you get into a signature event like the Grand Prix, the Ontario Summer Games, the FINA Diving Championships, you just raise it to another level, and you bring Windsor, to a level where we haven't been before, and build some awareness of what we have to offer.
Let's talk about why there isn't swimming and track and field, because people, when they think Ontario Summer Games, I think their minds go there. We're all very proud of our Aquatic Center, but those events just aren't included in the Ontario Summer Games, right?
That's correct. When I came on a couple months ago to start as the general manager of these games, I asked that exact question. I assumed there'll be track and field, I assumed that there'll be swimming, and was shocked to find out that neither are involved. And what my understanding now is that things like the track and field championships in Ontario have grown so large that they're an event unto themselves, and to have that along with these other 20 sports, you simply couldn't, there's not a city that could host that size of an event.
I'm excited about the skeet shooting for some reason. I don't know why, but that just intrigues me.
It's funny young you should people. Say that. We just did a site inspection with the provincial sport organization rep came down to Windsor, and we just did a site inspection of the facility, which is the Windsor Sportsman's Club, and it was probably one of the sports that we knew the least about as a committee, and learned the most about while we were there. And it seems like a lot of fun, and I know for a fact there's a few people from the local organizing committee that are making a trip back to see if they can shoot some skeet.
Oh, that's great. And our apologies now to the folks who live in the area, the Sportsman Club, from August 7th to 10th.
I can assure you, we know it's a very, very safe area, and they have actually jumped through a number of hoops to make sure that they can host the skeet shooting. It's something they do on a regular basis anyway. They do archery and they do skeet shooting there, and the shooting sports are something that not a lot of people know about, so it's a real opportunity for a local club like that to try and grow membership and grow interest in the sport. And I think that's going to happen in a number of different sports. I mean, you look at something like fencing. When I started talking about fencing and trying to get volunteers in the area that have some knowledge, what we found out was there really is no fencing taking place south of Kitchener. So when we heard that, what a great opportunity for the provincial sport organization to come here and generate some interest in that sport, and who knows, maybe start a local club.
All right, let's talk about the opening ceremonies now, Christopher. Yeah. And for those who don't know, Christopher is the, well, what's your official title with Cortisone?
With Cortisone, I'm on a board of directors member.
All right.
Local theater.
And Cortisone's a local theater on Seminole. I have enjoyed many, many wonderful productions there. So when I heard you were producing the opening ceremonies, I was very excited about it because I'm sure it will be a display. What's involved with it, and how did you end up doing this anyway?
Well, what's great is when I'm not spending time on stage at the theater, I work for the City of Windsor. That's my day job. And this was probably the best opportunity I've had to take what I do during the day, what I do in my, outside of work time, and combine the two. So I'm being asked to produce a show, an entertainment-based show for the community where I'm hired to serve, which is incredibly exciting for me. So I got involved because I work in the culture department, and what we do is celebrate and showcase and facilitate the very best of Windsor's arts, culture, heritage, our musicians, our performers, our dancers, from our youth groups to our adults. And this is an opportunity to take the best of what Windsor has to offer in terms of art and culture and put it in front of the best that Ontario has to offer in terms of sports and athletics and marry the two.
Well, I should mention also that TV Cogeco is the exclusive broadcaster of the opening ceremonies, and we are so thrilled to be a part of that. So everyone's going to tune into TV Cogeco to see the opening ceremonies, which is great. How long does it take to put a production like that into place, from conception to the rehearsals to opening day?
Usually, probably about 6 to 7 months. We're
wait,
doing
you said usually.
Yes,
Does that
I
mean
did.
maybe you didn't have
Yes,
that much
I did.
time?
No, we're doing it on a what I consider more exciting schedule. I think when you have 6 to 7 months to do anything, you have a lot of time that doesn't get wasted, but gets sort of split up and maybe dragged out a bit, and people don't have that looming deadline. And what we have with this is a tighter schedule, so the excitement and the stakes, I guess, are up. The entertainers who've come on board, the performers who have come on board, they're already hard at work. We have a local dance group who is choreographing a completely original piece where they will take the 20 sports that are being featured at the Summer Games, and they will take these sports, they'll interpret them in a modern contemporary dance, an interpretive dance, and with original music present that to the public for the first time at the opening ceremonies.
How exciting for them.
Yeah, it's absolutely unbelievable. When they heard they were going to be telecast, it ups the ante for them, right? So what you have is, in this stretch of 2 or 3, 4 months, people just working incredibly hard to put on an amazing show.
How many performers altogether?
Oh my God.
Lots.
Yeah.
Hundreds? Like, we're talking hundreds?
Mel, to give you an example, one of the dance groups, it's a youth, they're called Pure Academy, it's a youth hip-hop dance group, and they work with Corey Marius, who is a local choreographer who works with theater groups all across the city, all across the county. When he comes to the table, he comes with 60, 70, sometimes 80 dancers, right? So they're looking at, how do you fill Alumni Stadium with tiny dancers sometimes, in the case of the children, right up to teens, and put on the kind of show where the people in the audience are blown away. And that's just one group of dancers. So then when you look at the fact that there's 5, 6, 7 acts, and they all come to the table with their own group behind them, it gets pretty impressive.
Now, I'm a very positive thinker, but this event's going to be outside, right?
Yes.
What do we do should Mother Nature not cooperate on that particular evening?
I personally think it would be amazing to watch hip-hop dance in rain-slicked fields.
Your liability insurance bill might go up a little bit, but
There might be some new moves that we haven't seen before.
I meant to do that.
Yeah, to my understanding, it's it's rain or shine, which is no new it's no new rule for me to work under. You know, when you're in a theater building and the power goes out, or there's bad weather, the power goes out, there's bad weather, the show goes on. So this is really the same ideology as that.
Where are all these athletes going to stay when they're here?
Really all over the city. The largest concentration will be down at the University of Windsor, where we have what's a true athlete village, multi-sport, 866 heads and beds at the University of Windsor, where they will have their mess hall and all their accommodations. But we're using a number of hotels throughout the city.
Now, because these are young people, some of them 14 years or even maybe a little bit younger, what's the chaperone status? Do they all bring their parents with them? How does it usually work?
It's a combination, and it depends on what sport. But in general, every team has at least a coach and a couple of managers, or a couple of coaches and a manager, and they're responsible for their own team. And then we have a PSO rep or multiple reps that come down for each of the provincial sport organizations that are responsible for that sport. And in addition to that, of course, there are parents.
Well, who wouldn't want to see their child compete in this sort of competition, right? It must be very exciting.
For sure. This is the highest level of competition that many of these athletes will have seen to date. They are the provincial championships for many of the sports. So great opportunity for parents to drive in, especially with the large draw from the GTA and the London area, where in past years we've seen teams come from those areas.
I know it's really hard to estimate, but what do you think the economic input is going to be on the City of Windsor? We haven't talked about what we're going to do as far as a study, or if we will do a study. Certainly, I know what the budget's like, so I know what kind of dollars are being spent at the hotels, the caterers for food and beverage, rental of the venues. So I see firsthand all of that money that's going into the community. But in addition to that, really hard to estimate. I mean, will we get 10,000, 25,000, 35,000 spectators? Remains to be seen. Certainly the weather will help if we have that great Windsor weather that we tend to get in August. It'll be fantastic. Even if it rains, at least it's going to be warm. We're guaranteed warm weather here in August. Yeah, that's
so
true.
Everything is there's weather dependent, and it depends on what teams qualify. Right now, as we're speaking, there are teams qualifying for these games. So depending on where the teams are from, certainly if you're in London and your child is participating in an event in Windsor, you're going to drive in. Absolutely. And then you've got all that economic spin-off of when they use transportation when they're here, when they go to eat when they're here, and that of course all goes into our economy, which is fantastic.
I'm looking forward. I think there's going to be such a vibe and such a buzz with all these young athletes in the city. I just think it's going to be very exciting, and I hope that we as a community really get involved. But the best thing about it is the events are all free. We can all go, and you don't need even any kind of ticket, right? You just go and show up.
Absolutely. That's at all the sporting venues. And I want to point out too that this amazing show that Chris and his team are putting on, and these great performers, that's going to be a free event as well. So, and Alumni Stadium is a really large venue, so we should be able to get a lot of people into that. We're starting right off the bat with athletes and volunteers around 3,300 people to start with, and then you've got about 2,000 more fit into the permanent stands that are there. So it should be quite an event, and again, free to the public.